Hi, Misha here, and we've been doing kind of 6-month review updates. Hope you enjoy them. We want to really give a second or even third pass for a lot of guns. We did it with the Hellion, and we've done it with several AKs. The thing is, the guns here are either owned by myself or Fox, or they're on kind of long-term loan from a friend. They're not teenies. We want to really get to know them for better or worse. And for the New Year's range trip, we had room for a 9mm pistol, and I just kind of had a hankering to shoot the Polish FB VIS-100. Hasn't quite been 6 months, more like 4, but we did take it out for its first shots in the late summer of 2022. Here's a quick look back. Very first shots out of the VIS-100. Held open.
Fire a few rounds from the VIS-100.
For that first range trip, it performed flawlessly, eating all types of ammo, although there were some disagreements over its ergonomics. I think it's easy enough to say it's not one of those guns that everyone's going to love, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. This is the Polish Army's current service gun, replacing older models like the Wanad. And what it's really designed to be is durable, dependable, and to give Poland something to shoot, to build, that they don't have to import. It fires standard 9x19 NATO, has a barrel about 4¼ inches long. It is a traditional single double action hammer. No safety as such, but it does have an ambidextrous decocker only. Ambidextrous mag release. Standard magazines are 15 shot, although there is a 17 shot extended mag, same body plus 2 base plate available. And we have a fiber optic front sight, at least on the M1 that's imported here by Arms of America. And we have a removable rear sight with the interchangeable plates for optics. And we have a Picatinny rail. I know Chris loves that. 1913 rail below. And it's skeletonized because one thing, this is a all metal pistol with only the grips being polymer. But it's very lightweight, under 25 ounces unloaded. Not bad for a mid-sized hammer gun. But it's not anything outstanding or revolutionary. This was just so Poland had its own gun. Now, when we were shooting last time, Fox had a few things to say, and he was kind of indecisive on it if he really liked it or not, which is, one reason it seemed like a good gun to bring out again. Let's go back in time again and get his initial impressions after firing it then.
Another thing on the looks here is, since it is a cold weather gun, since it's out of Poland, it does have a lot of room for a glove. So let's go into how I think it feels in the hand. We know it looks good, in my opinion, but when you pick this thing up, my first impression was, man, this does not feel good in my hands. It's mostly because of this grip here. It's maybe because it's something different. I don't know if it's the grooves in it. It just kind of, when you pick it up, it just felt weird. It didn't feel like it fit the hand like a glove. And I think maybe that has a lot to do with, it's a cold weather gun. You need a glove on. So I actually did put on one of my shooting gloves and put, 20 rounds through it, 30 rounds, and I got really used to it. Took the glove off, shot it just with my hands, and it really felt a lot better. But I think your first impressions when you pick it up, and it's in your hand, you don't have anything to compare it to. It's new, it's different. That doesn't always mean a bad thing, but it takes a little getting used to. We'll stop there. We'll continue speaking about how the gun feels. Another thing too, I think that just seems different is this hump back here. You know, if you're holding a 1911 or even a Glock or a SIG, it's more of a flush. There's a little bit more of a, it's honestly, it's a hump, you know, with kind of this dovetail back here. It seems to push the palm of your hand back, not really where you feel like you're going into the glove. And again, once you start throwing shots downrange, it got comfortable. But in my first initial impressions was, man, I do not like the way this gun feels.
So, what about this time? Brought it with some different ammo types. We just have the 2 mags though, so we'll have to make do. That's okay. Let me put another mag through it. Why not? Felt like shooting the VIS-100 again. And since it's loaded, let's try this mag. Now with the extended mag. A couple of boxes in at the day. Various 9mm. It is still 100% reliable. The first time I shot it, I thought it was okay. But, I don't know, maybe that day back in the summer I wasn't completely feeling it. But I will admit the first couple of mags I'm putting it through it at the end of December, beginning of January 2023. I'm kind of liking it more, a little bit. Not perfect, not my favorite gun of all time. Maybe it's fitting in a little better for me. Let's see what Fox thinks. See if his opinion will change this range trip or not. And now Fox with the VIS. Yeah, with only 2 mags, we gotta be a little careful with them.
Yeah, I didn't drop it.
I know.
Yep. Held open.
All right, quick take. How do you feel about 6 months later about it?
I still like the way it feels. It's still comfortable, but it's just too long of a trigger pull. That trigger pull is so long, and it could just be because I've shot so many pistols back to back in the last 2 weeks. Still comfortable. It does have a little bit of a bite. I would honestly feel better if this dovetail, beaver tail, whatever you want to call it, was just a little bit further back. I noticed these are new gloves, but it was very jumpy. Seemed like with my big hand, it was coming back. Like I said, these are new gloves. This is the first pistol I've shot with them, but that trigger draw, that pull, that break is pretty long.
In double or single or both?
It felt like both. Well, let's just say double. It was more noticeable in double.
Fox is going to try the VIS with no gloves.
Clear. Held open.
Very consistent ejection over here. So, without gloves.
Still felt jumpy, little snippy. I will say it didn't have, how do I put this? It did seem like on the gloves, it was grabbing more, therefore it's jerking my hand a little more.
Interesting. I think I follow you. Yeah, I'll give it another go myself and kind of look for what you were talking about. Let's see about this double action. Held open.
So, did you notice anything?
Not really. I didn't get any kind of bite from the slide, which if you look, it's even if you choke pretty high up, you've got a good clear there. I have small hands. That's something, especially with military guns. But I've kind of gotten used to it because I really like the Beretta M9. So it doesn't really eat my hand quite as bad as the M9. Hell, I own an HK Mark 23. So, you know, if I can shoot that. Yeah, I'm not really finding it snappy.
So it wasn't really so much that the slide was biting my hand. It was just so much recoil where it was just almost wearing my wrist out.
Well, I think what it is the frame is alloy, and you've got a steel slide. So yeah, most of your mass is going to be up here.
Right.
The trigger in double, yeah, it's long. It's smooth.
It is smooth, but it's a very
single,
long. It'll surprise you.
The thing about the single, you don't have to let up all the way. You can stage it back here and.
I still think it's just a gun I need to work with.
I agree. No, it is a different feeling gun, guys.
It is.
I will completely, because the first time we shot it, I was not uncomfortable, but I feel like after 6 months, I'm getting more comfortable. I'm never going to say this is my favorite, fits me like a glove, but I'll be honest, it fits me better than, say, like a Glock 21.
See, honestly, I think my Glock 21 fits me a little better. We should...
Different hands.
Yep, we should get it and compare, but yeah, cool.
Interesting bit of feedback there. Now, like I said, this is not a perfect gun by any stretch of the imagination. It is a very smooth gun, though. It's breaking in nicely, even on an empty. It's easy to release. The decocker is pretty easy to hit, especially from the right-hand side. Left hand isn't. And basically the same, really. I can't really tell you about the sights, although I will say that's one thing that Fox did compliment. He did like the fiber optic front sight. It does feel like a quality gun. It has a little bit of wiggle and play, like any military gun. I'm still really digging the mag release. I like that it's not the swappable style. It's got a lanyard ring because it's me, and I like that. But, on the other hand, it does have a very high bore axis. There's no way around that. And all your real weight's up top because of the steel slide and barrel, even though they've minimized the weight as much as possible. The frame is very lightweight, which we'll talk about more when we look at inside to see how much wear and tear it's got. Of course, there's another respected gun that reminds me a lot of that. Yep, Mark 25. Fancy. Held open. I'm talking, of course, about the Sauer P226, or in the case of mine here, the Navy version, the Mark 25. Actually, a very similar gun, including the very high bore axis. It too is just a decocker only, although it's only on the left side, not the right. It too has an alloy frame, steel slide, exposed hammer, single double action. Although the VIS does have a longer trigger pull and double. Single, not sure. Pretty equal. Although I've had this gun several years and it's pretty worn in. On the other hand, it doesn't have as many provisions for sights, and it is a heavier gun compared with this. This is noticeably lighter. But it does have the same kind of two-piece wraparound grips, lanyard bar, 15-shot mag is standard, although extended mags are available, because of course they are. They even had the same failure. Alright, VIS-100. Didn't hold open. It's empty. Yeah. Held open, but empty. Yeah, the biggest issue we had with the VIS-100 was that a couple of times throughout the 2 different range trips, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 rounds we shot through it total, once or twice the slide didn't hold back, probably because of the ammo. But, as you saw, even my Navy spec Mark 25 has done that from time to time. Not something I'd want happening all the time, but kind of one of those permissible things now and again, especially if you're shooting a mix of ammo. If I'm shooting 124 grains brass cased military spec, then no. But if we're shooting some cheap alloy stuff, 115 grain, sure, it can happen now and again. But I do think these kind of compare. But the VIS does have a slightly more modern feel to it because of the more ambi controls, the more sight options. Though the trigger on the SIG may be a little nicer. Build quality wise though, this does show very nice. Truly does. What do you think? And now Fox's last go with the VIS today.
Held open.
Any final thoughts?
Man, as much as I want to like this gun because of how sharp looking it is, I do not enjoy shooting this. It just puts so much recoil on my wrist. And I don't know if it's because my hand is bigger than the gun, if you actually look here. But it seems like I just don't have any place to go with my wrist.
I think next time I'll put those are the small medium grips. Maybe next time I'll put the large grips on for you.
Yeah, that may actually help.
If it was a little easier, it's just screwdrivers, but I hate to do it out here in the woods because we will drop a screw.
Yeah, definitely.
But next time I'll swap grips and see if that helps. But I guess there's something else to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So it seems like while he respects the sights and the overall feel and looks, Fox is just not digging this grip. But when we were out shooting this summer, I brought out one of my favorite guns that fits me like a glove, and I'm going to be honest, he didn't love it either.
Walther P99.
I know where the brass was going. I am supremely comfortable with this Walther P99. And it's worth pointing out that Poland has not only used this gun, but manufactured a variant known as the P99 Rad, which in some ways is a precursor to the PPQ we know and love today. This is a hammer-fired alloy frame. This is a striker-fired polymer frame, so this is a somewhat lighter gun, although it does really show you how much weight they trim, because this is only 3, maybe 4 ounces heavier than this. Quite impressive. They both have barrels roughly the same length. This is right at 4 inches, so this is slightly longer. And of course, this Gen 1 has the old school rail. But one thing I noticed that they both kind of have, and maybe partly why Fox didn't care for either, is they do have that kind of hump in the back here to the grip. And it's more of a straight grip. As he said, he likes the Glock style, which is more back swept. This is more straight up, so I definitely see a commonality. And at that, we're really just comparing subjective things, how individual guns fit individual folks' hands. So there's not a right or a wrong. So that might explain why I'm getting more used to this, and he's just not quite adapting. Luckily, with the P99, you're not stuck with this exact grip. It does come with, or at least back then, it did come with grip inserts, back straps, large, medium, and I have the small on because it is my gun. Possibly if I put the large on or even the medium, Fox would like it more. I should point out that Walther was really the first to bring mass production gun with this feature to market, something that has been copied and, yes, improved upon by other makers since then, but Walther was one of the first. Now, with the VIS-100, you have separate grips it comes with. And These are nominally larger, but really the difference has to do with the cut. If you notice on these, there's a bit of an indent up here, and that's not present here, pushing your finger out more, thumb. And this does flare out more in the back. It's a little larger, and this hump comes out a little more, where it's more flush here. So it's not just that the back strap is bigger, but the shape is ever so slightly bumped up, and this does flare out more. But each does have 2 screws. Not a big deal to do when you're on a bench. This does flare out a little more on the side here too, versus this is just more smooth. I will have to throw these on next time and see if that improves Fox's experience, because why not run a few rounds through it? I'd like to get it to about 1,000 rounds. Maybe I'll even bring the P99 back out with a larger grip strap and see if that helps. It may not. I'm just speculating. But that's the nice thing about a lot of modern pistols, is they can much more be customized compared with, Lugers and 1911s. So before we go, let's field strip this and see how it's wearing inside. And because of YouTube, I'll take it apart off camera and then come back. Generally speaking, this comes apart very much like the SIG. Lever here, rotate it down, slides right off. Let's look at the frame in the beginning. I really like how they've skeletonized everything they can to save on weight. It does mean a little more felt recoil and kind of that flip. And even maybe some bite, as Fox was talking about, even some scalloping in the mag well. But it's not as if a polymer gun would necessarily be any better. Lightweight is lightweight. Very nicely machined metal. Just has a good feel to it, good ring. Doesn't feel like cheap castings. It's still a mass-produced gun for a military, don't get me wrong. This isn't a custom gun, but for a military gun, and it does seem to be holding up really well. We've got rail sections in the back, and rail sections up here, and they seem quite long. Not full rails, of course, but better than some little nubbins you see on other guns. With this frame apart, it is feather light. It is lighter than the alloy frame from our SIG, and almost as light as the one from the Walther. I'm impressed, if nothing else, about that. Moving on to our slide assembly, this is still very lightweight, although you can tell this is where the majority of the weight does go. But they've lightning cut or drilled in the recoil guide assembly. Spring is fine. I mean, you can see more than me. Here we have the barrel in the slide. Goes very smoothly. And you just jiggle it out as you would on any other pistol. There's our feed ramp. Lock up. I would imagine there has to be some finish wear now, but there's no cratering or pitting, just normal wear. Notice how the barrel does flare out just a bit at the end. They probably taper it down for weight savings and flare it out just for a little bit better lockup with the slide. And then the slide itself, with the barrel removed, most all of your weight is in the back, your breech block, which again probably does explain the somewhat snappy, snippy nature of it, as Fox said. But if you're going to have something this light, it really can't be helped. Notice the lightning cuts on the sides, machined out, even some up here. This is thin, but not thin to the point I would worry. After all, this did pass Polish military trials and was in development for over a decade. I guess at the end of the day, I do trust the Polish government, the Polish military, to not adopt something that's going to break. A little bit of lightning cut here. Front of the slide. Breech. Nothing abnormal that I can tell. Maybe you can see something, but I'm not feeling anything. Let's put this on without the accoutrement just to see how movement is. Keep in mind this hasn't been cleaned either. This is straight from the range. In my opinion, that's actually quite very nice. So I'm going to say, based on my inexpert opinion when it comes to these kinds of things, that it's wearing just fine. Somewhere now, probably around 400 rounds fired during 2 range trips. And again, the biggest failure we had was failure for the slide to hold back twice during both trips. 1 per trip, I mean. So if nothing else, reliability does seem to be there, and it does not seem to be ammo sensitive. Also, I did notice loading the mags even full was exceedingly difficult. Not compared to other single feed double stack patterns, at least. Very standard mag. But proprietary to this gun, which is one of the dings, unfortunately. It doesn't take a standard magazine, even though the style is standard. You get 2, that's better than 1, but if you find a spare mags, I would suggest buying a couple. If nothing else, it saves you a little effort at the range. Let's put her back together and have a couple of final thoughts. And 1 more mag for me through the VIS. And as you'd expect with a modern gun, no difficulty at all putting her back together. It's unfortunate that this doesn't have any major steps forward in pistols, that it's just a military gun, but that's not necessarily a knock. There's a lot of pistols like that. For example, the Zastava EZ9, or whatever they're calling it right now, was called the CZ99. Some countries just want to make their own gun, and it's a 9mm pistol that passes their trials and meets their requirements. There are a few differences between this and the military version, namely with the sights, a little bit to do with the cut of the frame. But all in all, made in the same factory with the same quality components. And it's not like it's lacking anything. You do have the RMR plate, 1913 rail, ability to accept reasonably high capacity mags, and considering this has no actual safety, just a decocker, I kind of understand the wisdom in having a long trigger pull. It's not necessarily that heavy, it is quite smooth, but when you can't actually carry the pistol locked and cocked, so put a safety on just as that, you do not want a hair trigger. If you had a safety, that'd be one thing, but you know, it's kind of the same situation with our SIG here. Decock it. I will admit the decocker is a little easier to reach on the SIG if you have a long finger, but it's only on the left side. This, it's more in a position that someone used to 1911 would be comfortable with. It is very flat though. The positive is you're not going to hit it accidentally. The negative, you might slip off of it, but then again, they probably don't expect someone to be hitting the decocker in a hurry. It's not a safety, not something you need to knock off in combat, so probably better to have it low profile so it can't accidentally be tripped, because that could screw you up in combat if you accidentally hit your decocker when you wanted to keep it in single action. But I think Fox's concerns and, frankly, complaints are very relevant. I have to say, I feel more comfortable with this gun after the second range trip. It's not going to be my choice for the best gun ever. But, you know, it's neat. I think most people would just pick these up as a collectible or a novelty. And that's fair, because Arms of America is not importing these in tens of thousands trying to market them as the best thing ever. It's just them saying, hey, Polish people, you like the original VIS-35 or Polish Beryl rifle? You want the sidearm to kind of go with it? Here you go. Some have complained about the price. I think we all wish things were cheaper, but we're living in 2022, 2023 now. It is what it is. The cost to transport, the exchange rate, and this is a metal pistol, not polymer. And at least you do get a decent case, 2 mags, a total of 4 base plate sets, 2 sets of grips, an actual paper manual, which is becoming less and less common, and a nylon cleaning and a metal, if it doesn't stick to the thing, cleaning. And on top of that, you do get some plates and jazz for your sights there. So you do get something for it. Is it worth basically $1,000? That's up to you. If you're just wanting the best pistol ever, no, there's better options. But I'll say this, it doesn't disappoint for people wanting a Polish gun. It's reliable. It's not ammo sensitive. For me, it fits my hand quite well. It would be one of those guns that in a pinch you wouldn't have to worry about jamming up on you. And I do really appreciate the lightweight, even if it does come at the cost of some snap and flip. But that's just me, because you're going to feel that with polymer guns too, like this. Because lightweight is lightweight. But just thought we would do a little update review since there's not a lot being said out there on these. And I'm not saying they should make a huge splash in the market, but it's worth, noting their passing. Because it's something truly different. This is the first time a VIS-100 has been on the American market. And in a world... Sorry about that. In a world of clones and copies of Glocks and, frankly, Walther PPQs and 1911s and everything else, at least it's something different. And we'll see how the history goes on it. Don't know. It's a small delight, and all in all, I'm probably happier with it than I expected to be. But I'm not a big modern pistol person. I have some, but I'm usually pretty choosy, if I'm going to be honest with you. How about you? What do you think? Do you like polymer? Do you like striker? Do you still like hammer? Do you like metal? What's kind of your pick? Do you like the more 4-inch style guns? Or do you prefer more the 5-inch type? Because this is kind of in that duty service range, and 4 inches seems to be sufficient for defense purposes. But yeah, next time I'll throw the different grips on. It'll probably be a few more months, maybe even a year. But I'm going to hang on to this for a while. I don't know how many came in, and the only thing I want to do is grab some extra mags. I'll do that as time permits. They're not super expensive when you find them. It's just finding them. Anyway, guys, hope everyone is having a good start to this year. Please, if you own one of these or have shot one, feel free to give us your review below, or link, or whatever. As always, if you could, please do like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, you know the drill. Check out the link to the Patreon page. This is Misha, also on behalf of Fox. We'll catch you very soon next time.